have no words. Yesterday I found a beautiful parcel delivered at my doorstep, in my sister's handwriting. She has been missing since she was 16 years old, and I really do not know what to make of it. Here it is. I woke up here. I don't know where I am. I don't know what my name is. I don't know how old I am, but I look around 19, though I think I might be much, much older than that. The place I am in seems ancient. It looks like ancient Mayan architecture, with gray, stony, stepped pyramids, with intricate details in the middle. There are mud huts around the Mayan temple, and this is where I seem to be held captive. I am writing this note using some kind of primitive pencil, which is simply some lead-like substance that you hold, and on what looks like a canvas, not an art canvas, but something that was actually made of animal hide. I think I might be in some parallel dimension, but I'm not sure. I'm also not sure whether these people think of me as a goddess or a demon. I arrived here yesterday. I think I washed up on the shore because I was soaking wet, though fortunately, I was still wearing my jeans and shirt. I had no memory of my past life. I did not remember the day, or even my name. I panicked. Perhaps I had some sort of mental illness, or maybe I had drowned. Had I drowned, I could not remember what I was doing before. If I had drowned, and then somehow survived that, perhaps I was brain damaged, and maybe I did not have much time before I died. So I started to head back towards the mud huts. Funnily enough, I did not feel unusual in any way. I was exhausted from walking a mile in the hot sun and was so glad to be able to arrive at some sort of civilization. As I approached the village, I found it very odd that it was so quiet, and there was no one on the streets. I walked towards one of the mud huts because I was already here, and this was my only option. As I reached the door, my blood ran cold, and I began to shake. The hut itself was normal looking, but the wooden door had my face etched on it. Was I meant to be here? Was I part of some kind of experiment? Did these people abduct me? Trying to do basic math tended to calm me down somewhat, and I needed some kind of peace at the moment so I could think logically. Okay, so worst case scenario, I was abducted. While negotiating and seeing what these people want is the only way I can get back to wherever I'm from, so I decided to bang on the door. Hello, I screamed, and there was no response. Hello, I screamed louder and began to kick the door. I started to kick the hinges. While I was at it, I banged on the door with all my might until my hands bled. I wanted an answer, damn it. I banged until I saw the skin slowly peel off my hands, my blood flowing down and staining the floor and the windows. I started to kick at the hinges next. I didn't care about the stinging, searing pain that flowed through my body as if you stubbed your toe, but 10 times worse. I didn't care if my toes began to break. When they began to take on weird, twisted, abnormal positions, I kicked and punched as though I was possessed, apathetic to my bones snapping. When the door finally broke off, my blood was everywhere, my hands no longer resembling hands, their skin pink rather than brown, the flesh worn off. I was missing a nail, and even my wrists were drenched in the blood flowing from my hands, and my feet were blood messes of their own. My bloody footprints were testament to my insanity. As I walked into the mud hut, it was small, and I could not see anything at first. It was so dark. It was around the size of a starter college room. If someone was hiding, there was not a lot of space for them. There was no floor, it was simply just made of mud, and it was so silent I could hear my bloody legs squelching. There was very little furniture, a small round wooden table in the center of the hut, and a rag on the left side. There was some food on the front of the rag, and a curled ball that moved. I approached it further, knowing it was likely someone who was hiding, and I poked at them, my blood staining their clothes. They looked up at me. It was a woman with long brown hair, brown eyes that were now very wide from seeing me, and a very wide mouth that was becoming wider by the minute. She then let out the most blood-curdling scream I've heard, like a woman who just gave birth and had a miscarriage. She genuinely looked terrified and devastated, and I stepped back, not wanting to terrify her any further. She took her chance and sprinted out. I was too shocked to do anything, and I was so exhausted from knocking that I just collapsed on the rag. That was her bed. The next morning, I woke up to my dried-up blood and twisted hands and feet, and to the searing pain that followed whenever I tried to use my hands or my legs. Half of my nails were missing too. I had shelter now, which I did not have before, and by the rag, there was some bread. I ate it. It tasted like it was fresh. I tried to process what happened the day before. The lady screamed and ran like she was scared for her life. My face was on the door. Perhaps I am a monster. Perhaps I am what is to be feared. I am not sure why they fear me. Perhaps I could find some answers in this mud hut. No one seems to be bothering me so far. My gaze returned to the round table, and I noticed something that I hadn't last night. It was a book, almost holy looking, with a mesmerizing intricate cover of golden roses. It was more mesmerizing than anything I could have imagined. I almost felt guilty putting my blood-stained hands on it. I opened it, and it was all illustrations of me. I was too numb and exhausted to feel scared, but I knew damn well that I should. It was illustrations of exactly what was happening. A girl with jeans and long brown hair washed up on the shore, a girl walking towards mud huts, a girl screaming and banging on one of the mud huts, a girl reading this, my curiosity won, and I read further. Villagers running towards the ancient temple. I suppose it was a kind of refuge. I saw the inside of the temple now. I saw the people gathered around a rectangular table that the woman was on. My blood stain on her clothes still very clear. She was bound by thick ropes, and she had the same agonized expression on her face. On the next few pages, they were burning her alive, as they seemed to be chanting to a mantle of me. They placed her charred corpse on the mantle of me. Was that supposed to be an offering? Why were they so afraid of me? As I read further, I saw the images change. The people were all screaming and sobbing gathered around my mantle, almost as if they were begging, pleading for my mercy. I could not bear to read anymore. I put the book down. Was this a prophecy of some sort? Some kind of instructions for the end times? I had to know more, and I was almost tempted to go into the temple to see these people. Was I going to meet them? What was I going to say? I was not sure. My body was aching, begging me to not try to look at the rest of their village, but I was terrified, and my terror got worse when I was inside the mud hut, rotting. I ventured out, and I limped into the adjacent mud hut. To my surprise, it swung wide open. I limped to the other one, which also swung wide open, and so did the other ones around me. When I glanced at the tall Mayan-looking temple, I could see the smoke coming out of its roof, smelling burnt, like charred meat. It smelled like someone burning rotting meat, utterly disgusting. They were burning that woman alive, and they were all at the temple. I raced into one of the mud huts and slammed the door shut. All of the round tables looked the exact same, with the same book on the table. I skipped over what I had already seen and looked at the future pages. It was me fainting, and then it was two men in rabbit masks and golden robes, enveloping my body in a golden cloth, and then it was me in the temple where I am writing this now. I did not get time to read more since I think I must have fainted from either stress, exhaustion, or whatever was in that bread. I am now in an ornate palace that is a cell. I think I am a goddess that they are terrified of, a goddess that they revile. They refuse to feed me, and I have been starving. I wonder whether they will let me starve to death. I wonder whether they worship me. I wonder whether they were cursing me. I write my testimony on this scroll. I hope that it reaches someone sensible. Before you ask, I have no doubt that it is her. This is her way of writing. She is the only person I know who curls her eyes like that. She is brown-skinned with brown hair and was wearing a shirt and jeans the day she vanished. I do not know what happened to my sister or who the hell took her. Please help me find out. The last time I posted here, you guys mentioned that my sister might have been abducted by some kind of cult. The most notable detail in the previous parcel was the distinct Mayan-like temple present in the village. However, I could not find a single source online about Mayan architecture used recently. Here is another parcel I got today, exactly 1 week after the last one. Dear future Cordelia, today was the festival of divine flesh. We were made whole today by uniting our rotten flesh and souls with the most holy and divine Naomi, who visited us. Today we recorded every single details, so we don't forget the day we were given most divine salvation. Everything happened exactly how the oracle said they would. On the night of the full moon, the goddess was to wash up on the shore. The sunset prior to this, we were to carve the goddess's face onto our doors to display our devotion. Then we were to seal our windows with animal hide, lest we see the goddess and perish due to our sinful nature. Then if we were a household with a woman, we were to prepare bread and lay it above our heads, our rags. It was crucial that we did not place the fresh bread by our feet, This would be an insult to the goddess. The oracle had said that the goddess would choose a woman, pure of heart, as an offering, that we would hear a mighty scream and rumbling on our door, and that the goddess would look at us and stain us with her blood and rest in our house. I hoped it was me, that she would choose me. I have been devoted to the oracle for all 19 years of my life. I prayed on my knees to Goddess Naomi. I prayed on my knees until they began to bleed. I baked the bread 6 times to ensure that the goddess would only have the most perfect bread to eat. I was courteous, gracious, just as I was instructed to be. I was a virgin, a woman with great honor. However, Goddess Naomi did not choose me. I was awake all night in order to hear the goddess. I heard her mighty scream in a godlike language unfamiliar to us mortals, and I heard her banging the doors of Araya. She was a quiet, unassuming, simple girl. She was 20 years old and unmarried. None of us knew anything about her, but she seemed to be a good, honorable woman. She was not particularly invested in the oracle like I was. She was not part of the prayer services in the temples like I was for 19 years. However, she had attended them with everyone else and would simply leave when everyone else began to socialize. There was nothing wrong with her, but she was not remarkable, and I wonder why the goddess chose her. That night, I heard Araya cry out like a mother who had just watched her child die in front of her, or like an artist who had their work burned. As punishment, I could hear Araya run. None of us thought less of her because of this. Contact with the gods is known to drive mortals mad. I was told they found her body floating at the temple well, her knees bruised. The high priest had thought she had climbed in and drowned, perhaps in a divine desire to unite her soul with the goddess she had seen. When she was pulled out, she looked peaceful, like she was sleeping. We were told to wait until sunrise to make our way to the temple, where we were cleansed in the water that Araya drowned in. We then made our way into the prayer room, where Araya's body was laid on the mantle. She looked elegant in a beautiful white blouse that hugged her waist, her long hair curling around her face as if cupping her face in their hands. She was as pale as a ghost. However, there was a red stain in the shape of a hand on Araya's shoulder, the touch of a goddess. I envied Araya more than ever in that moment. Then the high priest poured oil across Araya's body, which made her look even more beautiful and golden. Then he took the holy stones and used them to place a fire upon her white blouse. We chanted the creed for Goddess Naomi as we watched Araya get effulged by the flame. We hoped that it would please the goddess. Her mantle was watching us, and we all prayed, taking delight in this religious fervor. The atmosphere was so intense with the burning woman and the chanting and praying that many people, including myself, began to burst into tears, and others began to scream for the goddess's mercy. They were all so cloaked in sin, and she was so benevolent to bother blessing us. We did not deserve her blessings, and yet here we were. The scent of the burning corpse flooded our senses, and the thick smoke made its way upwards towards the roof of the temple. It would make its way to the sky, where all the gods could see our devotion to them. I could almost feel Naomi's presence. I could feel a sense of calm, a sense of love, as if everything was going to be okay, that I was still loved, even if the goddess did not choose me, that of course I would prosper. Of course Naomi had noticed my efforts. I was so distracted by my own prayers that I had not noticed the oracle standing next to the mantle. He was an unassuming man, short, bald, and fat, in a beige robe. He looked so simple compared to high priest who was wearing ornate robes and a headdress made of gold. However, we all knew his authority and stopped our chants when he lifted his hands up. The goddess Naomi is here, he said. They all cheered. The live goddess was with us right now, in flesh. I looked to the left entrance of the temple, and I saw them bring plates out with tender, cooked meat. We all knew that it was the flesh of the goddess, who had made holy a human body and left it so that we could consume her holy flesh and be made whole. We formed 2 lines, and I heard chants of "Hail Naomi" as each person was given their flesh. When I tasted it, I was surprised to find that it tasted like nothing, like water, like emptiness, though I suppose a goddess's flesh would not taste like mere animal meat. I also didn't feel anything. I thought I would have some kind of revelation, that it would be magical in some way. Thought it wasn't. After consuming the goddess, we're to spend the night at the temple in reflection, and so we did. Goddess Naomi was the reason why our village did not die when neighboring villages were racked with famine, why we stayed alive. as they fought with each other while we were untouched by every plague. Now we were one with her. They were required to write our reflections a form of prayer. So here is mine. Future Cordelia, I hope you reap the benefits of today, and I hope our village is in a higher state of prosperity than ever. All hail Goddess Naomi. All hail the Oracle. All hail Reka. May glory come to all of us. What the actual hell? I think these people ate my sister. I also want to know who on earth has been sending me these things. What's really freaking me out is that someone knew this would happen. Someone wrote the book, and someone prepared the meat. Someone is behind the brainwashing of these villagers who think my sister was some divine goddess. I want to further explore what happened to my sister. However, I am terrified. These people burned a woman alive. They ate my sister. I looked up the goddess Naomi. I looked up the Oracle, and I looked up the Reka. All I could find was a footnote in some article about a village in Egypt. Reka in an article about prosperity in Mesoamerican civilization. Though that was so long ago, there's no way my sister must be connected to that. I also found that Naomi was a farming goddess, not a major one even, just a remote god in Mesoamerican lore. I have no idea how this connects to my sister in any meaningful way. I wonder whether someone is playing a joke on me. I looked around my house. I have grown increasingly paranoid. These people seem to know where I live. Thankfully, no one was there. I wonder if they know that I am posting this here. Reddit, if you know anything about a village called Reka or a goddess called Naomi, please let me know.